So I will next share my perspective. As I mentioned, I'm a cognitive scientist. I've worked for 20 years on social and moral cognition. So things like how we build trust with one another, compassion, how we cooperate with one another. And I've also studied the role of technology in these processes, like how social media can amplify our outrage, for example. I'm also a practitioner and a teacher of samatha vipassana meditation for the past 16 years. And I really have to thank Mind and Life for giving me the space to bring together my scholarship and my practice. It's really, really special. Um, so I've been really puzzled by claims coming from technology companies that chatbots based on large language models like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and also specialized products for companionship like Replica can do these very human things like empathy and compassion and can fill in roles traditionally occupied by humans like teachers, therapists, even friends, lovers. And even arguments that chatbots might be able to fulfill these roles better than humans can. Take, for example, the venture capitalist Mark Andreessen, who's invested a lot in AI, in a 2023 essay that he wrote called Why AI Will Save the World. He writes, every child will have an AI tutor that is infinitely patient, infinitely compassionate, infinitely knowledgeable, infinitely helpful. Every person will have an AI assistant slash coach slash mentor slash trainer slash advisor slash therapist that is infinitely patient, infinitely compassionate, infinitely knowledgeable, infinitely helpful. Every scientist will have an AI assistant slash collaborator slash partner that will greatly expand the scope of their scientific research and achievement. Every artist, every engineer, every business person, every doctor, every caregiver will have the same in their worlds. This is just one example, but you will hear a lot of narratives like that coming out of leadership from the technology industry. And these narratives are a highly effective marketing strategy. AI companies have raised hundreds of billions of dollars, as Luke mentioned, in venture capital. And capital expenditures on AI right now are about 40% of the US economy. But there's a big problem with these narratives, as you're probably coming to realize already in this session. What I want to focus on is how they smuggle in false assumptions about human nature that paint a really pessimistic picture of what we are all capable of. Or in other words, techno-optimism is actually human pessimism. To explain what I mean, I will use two case studies. And the first one builds on Anat's wonderful presentation yesterday about empathy and AI. And Anat showed us really important work showing that, on the one hand, chatbots are really good at simulating human expressions of empathy over a text interface. But the other hand, most people actually really prefer to receive empathy from a human. I want to zoom out a bit and think about how this empathic AI is being marketed to us. There are tens of millions of people already using both specialized products like Replica and AI therapy bots, as well as general purpose apps like ChatGPT for therapy and for companionship. And if you look at the advertisements for products like these, they are touting the many benefits of getting empathy and support from a chatbot, including, it's a lot of work to empathize with other people. Many of us just don't have the time. And wouldn't it be awesome to outsource our compassion to other people? There's even a company that has developed a chatbot that will call your elderly parents for you so that you don't have to call them. And there's so much loneliness in the world. There's a loneliness epidemic. And, even if people do prefer to receive empathy from a chatbot or from a human, isn't some empathy, even if it's deficient, better than nothing? And, what about all the people who could never have friends, right? There are people who, elderly people or disabled people, these are actual claims being made right now that, they're just never going to have friends, so we should give them chatbots. That's the compassionate thing to do. I hope you're understanding how dark of a vision this is for all of us, right? To characterize compassion as hard work that we would rather avoid neglects all the benefits that we know about for showing up for the people we care about. Both modern science and ancient Buddhist teachings tell us that compassion, it's one of the illimitables. And the more that we invest in it, the more we cultivate it, the more of it we have to give, not less. And this idea that a chatbot friend is better than nothing paints a false picture of scarcity. It suggests that our only options ultimately are chatbots or nothing. But we know that it's possible for us to cultivate compassionate, nourishing human relationships. There's no fancy technology that this requires. And to give up on entire groups of people to say that they are beyond hope and the best we can do for them is give them a chatbot friend, that's not compassionate. That's pity, and we all deserve better. In other words, there's nothing wrong with human compassion that chatbots can fix. This technological solution only seems appealing because of the unjust social systems which don't leave enough room or time for compassion to really flourish the way that it can. Ironically, the same technologies that are posed as a solution to the loneliness epidemic, in fact, reinforce the very same conditions that caused the epidemic in the first place. Industry leaders also tell us that AI will replace human scientists. So we have Eric Schmidt, for example, the former CEO of Google, writing in 2023 that eventually much of science will be conducted at self-driving labs, automated robotic platforms combined with artificial intelligence. Now, some people are enthusiastic about AI scientists because they argue human minds are really deficient. For example, we have limited capacities to process large amounts of information. We get tired, we can't work 24 hours a day, and we bring our messy personal biases into research that really should be objective. AI is positioned as a solution to these shortcomings of human scientists. Now, in our culture, when we picture a scientist, we often picture a lone genius with crazy hair toiling away in a basement somewhere, working out mathematical equations late into the night. And with this received picture of science from our culture, it makes sense that we might be tempted to think that a superhuman automated version of this would be an improvement. It could work 24 hours a day, it could be more productive, it could do these vast calculations in mere seconds. But I want to argue that this narrative relies on a wrong view of what science actually is. And what we've known for decades now, and we really have to credit feminist philosophers of science and feminist anthropologists, is that science is a highly social process. Scientists make knowledge together in communities, and the most creative and innovative science comes from diverse teams whose members come from different backgrounds, different trainings, different lived experiences. In other words, the types of groups that Mind and Life has been bringing together for the past several years, and the group that we've brought together here in Dharamsala. The individual perspectives that scientists bring to the research process, what some might call bias, are actually an essential part of knowing the world together. The humanness of human scientists is not something we would want to automate away. This is an essential feature of how we come to understand the world. I love this image from my friend, the feminist philosopher Brianna Toole, who writes that a community of knowers is like an orchestra producing a symphony. Just as each instrument adds beauty and texture to a wall of sound, knowing the world is a group project, and everyone has something to contribute. If science today is limited, it's not because our human minds are fundamentally limited, it's because our scientific communities aren't diverse enough. No technology can solve this complex social problem. And as long as we continue to imagine science as the purview of lone geniuses who are good at math, whether that's a human or a machine system, we're going to continue underestimating and underutilizing the human potential that we have to bring to science and knowledge. What both of these case studies teach us is that optimism about AI emerges from a wrong view of human beings, a view that neglects our fundamental interdependence. Compassion is not something that can exist outside a relationship between two living, breathing humans, and we shouldn't talk about it as if it can. The idea that a chatbot could be compassionate or a friend distorts our collective understanding of what compassion is and what friends are. And science is not something that can thrive outside of a community. And so to consider scientific knowledge as something that a machine alone can discover distorts our view of how to do science well. The stories that we tell now about AI and about ourselves ultimately help create the world that we all live in. And as many others have said, it's easy to feel powerless in this moment, like the futures that are being portrayed by the AI industry are inevitable and we have no choice but to prepare ourselves. But in fact, these stories are still being written and they are collective. Writing the future of this technology in our world is something we do together, and one that I hope that you will all think of contributing to. Thank you.